But the main event is absolutely worth talking about. Derrick Lewis knocking out Curtis Blaydes, and the biggest upset, I think, in a UFC main event in 5 years. And Lewis just continues to be a living meme in how he wins fights. Just he decided to do one thing: wait for Curtis Blaydes to shoot and then knock him out. And it it looked a little silly at times in the fight because Curtis Blaydes, like a very pressure heavy fighter, came out, was looking for the takedown early. He makes no secret of it, and Lewis kind of stung him as Blaydes tried to close the distance, and that made Blaydes hesitate. He waited, he went a little kickbox heavy, and he did great. He just drawing out the feints of Lewis with his own, landed some nice leg kicks, and just started piecing him up in a way where even though he got staggered at the start of the first round, by the end he'd won it pretty cleanly. And more of the same in the second, with Lewis just throwing nothing. Like I think he landed 3 punches in the first round, and continued to not really throw in the second and just waited. Blaydes was winning the fight on the feet, which that's part of his game that has continued to evolve. The wrestling is such a threat that when people focus on that, it lets him get going on the striking. And it was going well for him until he really just telegraphed his takedown. And Lewis was waiting all fight for it and had the answer: a perfectly placed uppercut. No luck about this. It was really, he was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about pressuring him. I'm not going to worry about taking the fight to him. I'm not going to worry about anything other than just timing his takedown. And it's almost like a meme from a manga or something where it's like, just 100% focus on this thing. I'm going to do it perfectly. But that's what happened. He just, I mean, that uppercut was placed so beautifully. The shot was fairly telegraphed, but Derrick Lewis, or excuse me, Curtis Blaydes is a very explosive, fast fighter. You saw against Volkov just how quickly he was able to get it. So, yeah, it looked telegraphed, but in reality, Derrick Lewis had half a second to react and place that. So, very admirable job. And he could have looked very silly after this fight if Blaydes had chosen not to shoot and take him down, and Blaydes had just stayed piecing him up on the feet and won the fight on rounds like that. But I think when you're a natural wrestler with Curtis Blaydes, the striking is so unnatural and so forced that he can do it, but it gets uncomfortable after time, and he just wants to be a fish in water and go to the grappling. So even though I'm not going to do anything other than try and time a takedown, makes you look silly. At the end of the day, the winner is the king, the loser is the bandit, and Derrick Lewis ends up with the looking like a genius coming off of that. So it's kind of ironic for Blaydes because as he's evolving so much as a mixed martial artist and improving his striking game to the point where he is able to knock out a guy like Junior Dos Santos, piece up a guy like Derrick Lewis, maybe the most important part of his game until this point is diminishing, and that would be his chin. This wasn't the first time Blaydes has taken shots, or even the first time someone's timed a power shot on his takedown. If you remember, the real start of his coming out party was against Mark Hunt, I would say, and Hunt landed some bombs in that fight, and he had Blaydes wobbled, but Blaydes was just able to weather it and keep the pace going and find his takedowns and win the fight convincingly. And same thing against Alistair Overeem. Every round starts on the feet, and Overeem in particular timed this devastating knee, almost the same sequence as this Derrick Lewis knockout, just it was an uppercut for Lewis and a knee for Overeem. Going back even further than that, Lewis's first fight against Francis Ngannou, that was ended by stoppage, but it was a doctor stoppage because the eyes of Blade were so swollen. So what I'm trying to say is Blaydes had this ability at the start and rise of his career to just kind of eat shots from anyone and keep going. And I think that was a big part of his success. But the longer you're in the game, the more shots you get hit with. You never know when that chin is going to go. And don't, I'm, I'm not certain on this because when you're shooting with all that acceleration for a takedown down and someone like Derrick Lewis times you with an uppercut, that's the logical conclusion. But Lewis was really or Blaydes was really in the shadow realm on this one. He was just unconscious on the canvas. I saw something on Reddit like Derrick Lewis landed 6 strikes in this fight, and 3 of them came after the knockout. So those do not help. I'm not criticizing you. You fight till the ref stops you, and if it's like the eternal regret of any fighter who stuns someone and then doesn't put them away. Lewis, classic Lewis with the "it was Herb Dean's fault" comment right after the fight. But anyway, it's just kind of difficult for Blaydes that what had brought him a lot of his success seems to be going away, and you've got to think the chin's going to be even worse after this fight. But at the same time, I don't know that I can comfortably pick Lewis to beat Blaydes more times out of 10 than not. I mean, that was perfect execution on the game plan by him. So I do lean more towards that than I would against Volkov. But I'm not, Blaydes is in a curious position now where he, for a long time, was just unanimously regarded as the number 2 contender after Ngannou. But now with a loss to Lewis, he's got to be a bit set back. I think the right matchmaking decision for the heavyweight division moving forward with this match is you put Blaydes against the winner of next week's main event, Cyril Gane versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and you make Lewis versus Volkov 2 for the next title shot. Volkov on the rise after his last 2 wins, with Lewis also on the rise. But I think, well, for one thing, the fact that they had that first fight, which ended in the most upset surprise come from behind victory, makes a second fight so compelling anyway. And I don't, I don't really see either of these guys as a unanimous contender the way I saw Blaydes before this fight. So the heavyweight division just got a hell of a lot more interesting with this upset. I'm very much looking forward to next week's main event. And I think the matchmaking you can do now with this shakeup is awesome. And this is why mixed martial arts, the greatest sport, you just one moment can change everything in it. And the possibilities are so much freer and so much more endless. So that's all for this Combat Corner. I'll be right back to talk some hockey.